ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Steve Barber, and joining me is the dynamic co-host himself, Dwaylon Davis.
Hey, everybody.
And I will have to say, it is never a chore working with Dwaylon, ever. There's
Thank
reasons
you.
why I say
appreciate that.
Well, there's reasons why I say that.
I appreciate that.
But
I do my best to be easy to get along with. So.
yes, and like I said, I think in 30 plus years, I don't even think we've ever gotten into an argument. We may have had like disagreements.
Yeah, we've had debates back and forth, and might have had disagreements, but yeah, we've never had an argument.
Yeah, I think even the rare political discussions we had, even if we disagreed, we never raised our voices or anything.
No,
didn't even do a caps lock on Facebook. But tonight we are going to be discussing WWE once again releasing people, and they have a new plan.
Yeah, they have a new plan in place, which we'll get into, but it's like I just don't understand why any young person starting out in the business would want to work there.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I get if you're already an established star, you've done your work other places, and then this is your final destination. Like AJ Styles. AJ Styles will more than likely retire from WWE. I don't see him going anywhere else because he made his name everywhere else.
Right.
And then came to WWE, I feel like, to, get the big payday and end his career. And, and that's fine. I like AJ wearing one of his shirts.
Yes, you are.
But just like young, up and coming people that are looking to break into the business, if I was them, WWE would not be where I would want to go with the way that they're doing business right now.
And, I was just listening or watching the TNC Sports Talk podcast. Was it last weekend, I think? And they had wrestler, future star Stephen Kane. He's part of, the NWF.
Right.
And I didn't realize he's also on my Facebook. He lives all the way in Troy. Troy is north of Dayton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He drives 2 hours to get down to Bone Crushers. Yeah. And you actually broke up just then. I heard that's, and then it froze. I don't know. I don't know if that's my end or your end, because I told everybody, hey, get off the
I'm not
5G,
sure.
get on.
I'm on my other internet, so I don't.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's me or not.
But yeah, I heard that's, and then it froze.
Yeah, I was saying that's dedication driving.
Oh yeah, I mean,
2 hours.
He is one of the nicest people you could ever meet. But yeah, he's definitely dedicated to the craft. And he said there was another school up closer to him. He went through them at first, but just something was not feeling. He just wasn't feeling it up there.
Mm-hmm.
So he decided to go with Bone Crushers, and Bone Crushers is established and it's got a very good reputation. So
right.
WWE, I mean, people got to realize, there are other companies out there. You don't have to go to them, especially when they're having a plan of where they're going to be releasing people every quarter.
Yeah. Like every 90 days they plan on evaluating, especially like the NXT and Performance Center rosters, and they're going to basically you've got 90 days to be where they think you should be. And if you're not, then you're out the door.
It's like another season of Tough Enough.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
And it's like they've cut people, they've cut Performance Center people who haven't even, I don't even think they've been on NXT yet. I think they may have been on, for anybody who doesn't know, they canceled 205 Live and replaced it with a show called, I believe it's called Level Up. It's basically where they, I think it happens after NXT, and it's where the new recruits get to kind of perform in the ring and, get some seasoning and things like that, which is, a good concept, but it's like, how are you going to have this? And NXT is supposedly their, true developmental now. but then you're only giving people 90 days to improve to whatever ridiculous level you think they should be at, and or they're out the door. So why would I sign with a company to before I say this, there's been people on Twitter that are like, well, that's no different than you get hired in at a job and your 90 days probation period and stuff. And I'm like, I understand it in theory, but like what me and you do, we both do a lot of computer work and things like that. That is completely different than learning how to wrestle.
How to be a professional wrestler.
How to be a professional wrestler and how to play to the crowd and things like that, which all of that is what WWE wants. They want you to be this entertainer and all that. And not everybody learns at the same pace.
Right.
So
now, granted, if somebody's 2 years into it and they're still, that's a little different.
Yeah, if you're 2 years in and you haven't improved, then I get it.
It's just not it's not for you.
Yeah, but if you're 90 days in and you're busting your butt and you're still not, and you're just not where they think you should be, I feel like give these people a little more time to grow instead of just. It's not I feel like they're trying to treat it like an assembly line. It's like, we're going to get these recruits, we're going to bring them in, they got 90 days to show me something, or they're out the door and we're just going to cycle in the next batch.
Like I said, tough enough.
Yep.
Oh, but before we really get into it, I want to go ahead and give our contact and listening info. If you'd like to email us, it's armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com. If you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/armchairbookingpodcast. By the way, my daughter says I don't say facebook.com. Like, whatever. Anyway, Instagram, you can find us also at Armchair Booking Podcast. On Twitter, you can find us at Booking Armchair. On TikTok, at Armchair Booking. You can find us just about any audio platform there is. Thankfully through Spreaker, Stitcher's back to having problems again. I had to tell you that earlier.
Okay.
For some reason, it's reverted back to the old stream. And I don't know why. I've even tried to update it, so I'm going to have to contact them again and find out what's going on. But iHeartRadio is back and fixed, and we are so sorry, iHeartRadio. I'm so sorry. I said those nasty, mean things about you. But at the time, they were justified.
Yeah,
but
right.
Now, that everything's fixed. So now you can just find us. Just basically your main podcast platforms. You can find us. And especially if you're on Apple Podcasts, go give us a 5-star rating. Go give us a review. Let us know how we're doing. You can find our merch at tpublic.com/user/armchair-booking-podcast. And TeePublic is also where I got this shirt for the Bless Their Hearts podcast. Some guys who we support, and they've actually supported us, and they also run the True Crime Cast podcast. Which, if you're on their Patreon, which I am, they actually just released a story that I actually wrote for them.
Awesome.
About a serial killer named Dean Coral. And I tell you, I don't know if you ever heard of them. Yeah, he was one of the. Yeah, he was pretty sick. Depraved. Yeah. So you read about him? Is it? Yeah. Ooh, anyway, and last but not least, you can also find us on Spreaker. That's who hosts us now. You can find Dwaylen at fat_daddy73. That's his Twitter handle. You can also find him on TikTok at you're big and fat.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it just at big and fat?
Yeah, it's just at big and fat, and our YouTube channel is the same.
And I believe I'm subscribed to your YouTube
I think so.
Okay, so you can also, obviously, if you're watching this on video, you already know you can find us on YouTube. Just look for Armchair Booking Podcast or Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I think I've actually been able to find it under both. I believe that may be it.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's everything.
And I'm going to have to order a new, at least maybe not, if not a new mug. See, you can get coffee mugs. Just a travel mug. Had an accident the other day and had an accident with something else. When I was cleaning up, this mug fell on the floor. It must have still had coffee in it. I don't know if you can see.
That's it.
That's not from the coffee. That's from a dog trying to get to the coffee.
Yeah.
I'm a little mad at the dog. It still works, but it's, I should probably take it and kind of file that down a little bit. But yeah, so I don't know if I can get an extra lid, but I will certainly try.
Yeah.
I could just get an entirely different mug. with a different design, and just so I can make it's not like I can use both at the same time anyway. So
Right.
And yeah, that is it for all that. So
Yeah. I think that's everything.
Go listen to TNC Sports Talk. Go listen to The Hill Truth with Ted the Hillbilly Hill.
Yes.
He'll spit out some truth for you.
Oh yeah, he really will.
Very, very intelligent. Yeah, and definitely go listen to True Crime Cast. Go listen to Bless Their Hearts, and also listen to the brand new podcast called Cubicle Chat.
Yep.
Because Dwaylen's going to know all about that one on Wednesday.
Yeah. Yep.
So, anyway, all right. This whole thing about them releasing names, and like we were just alluding to earlier, them almost giving them like the 90-day probation period. I had the 90-day probation period at my job. I mean, I understand what that's like.
Yeah, I did too.
I mean, and part of the thing, and I don't think they're necessarily going to say, okay, you have the 90 days, because you may not be where this is how I would do it anyway. You may not be where you need to be, but if your attitude is if you're working hard and you're given something to work with, I would say, yeah, that would definitely keep them on. I don't think it's here's your milestone, but if somebody's showing the aptitude, if they're showing the work ethic that they can, but at the same time, like I said, if 2 years into it and you're still trying to figure out how to do a leg lock, there may be something wrong.
Yeah, I agree. My problem with releasing the NXT talent, the ones that they just recently released, we'll go through the names in a minute, but it's like two of the names that they released were involved in a storyline. So now I guess that storyline just gets completely dropped with and the problem with WWE, there's no explanation. It's just like 1 minute this person's here, the next minute they're gone, and there's no explanation as to what happened.
Okay, I'm turning it just for a second just to see if you see them when they drive by. Can you hear them?
I hear the sirens.
This might be a first for the show. Oh, there they go.
Yep, there they went.
Okay, they were going too fast to be stopping. So
yeah,
because one time we saw them going by real slow, and they stopped at my other neighbor's house. Right. Unfortunately, I remember the one night they stopped at my neighbor.
Yeah.
And I don't know if our listeners were aware. Yeah, my neighbor, unfortunately, he passed away about a week later. So yeah, that one was per se. He was a good man too. So, but with all like you said, with all these names, some of them are involved in storylines. Now those storylines are going to be unresolved.
Yeah. There's one name in particular that was extremely misused. Dakota Kai.
Yep.
Dakota Kai was, a huge star on the independent scene. She went by Evie on the independent scene. She started using that name when she was 17 years old. And she's wrestled all over the world. She's from New Zealand, and she has wrestled all over the world. She gets to WWE. She's been on NXT this entire time. She is a 2-time NXT Women's Tag Team Champion. But it's one of those where she has watched people come in after her, win the NXT Women's Championship, get moved to the main roster, have success on the main roster. She's never been the NXT Women's Champion, never got moved to the main roster. And then here's the pettiness, I feel, just my opinion. She had decided that she wasn't going to re-sign a new contract. They tried to get her to re-sign a new contract. She decided she didn't want to re-sign. She would just leave when her deal was up. Well, her deal wasn't up till 2023. So they released her. They released her on Friday when she still got over a year left on her deal.
Oh.
So they release her. NXT talents only have a 30-day non-compete clause. So she's going to get paid for 30 days, and then that's it. She's got to find work somewhere else.
Which I'm pretty sure she will.
Oh, I'm sure she will. With the the way women's wrestling is right now, there's no shortage of places for her to go. I mean, she could go to Stardom in Japan. She could wrestle Impact, AEW. She could go to GCW. A lot of women are wrestling for GCW nowadays. Yeah, she's extremely talented. I don't have any doubt. I have no doubt that she will land on her feet. I think it's just a petty thing. Oh, you're not going to re-sign, so we're going to, instead of letting you, finish out your contract, we're just going to release you now.
Yeah, we're not going to. It's almost like in the NFL or the NBA or even baseball, where somebody's in a contract year, and all of a sudden, that's when they really start playing hard.
Yeah.
Versus wrestling, you don't really see that, but
yeah,
it's kind of like that. But so they're not going to give her a chance to show off her skills in their ring for
exactly.
talent scouts.
And I mean, like, they paired her with it's Raquel Rodriguez now. She's on Smackdown.
The new girl.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, she looks like she's supposed to be really good.
Yeah, she was on NXT. She was tag team champions both times with Dakota Kai. She went on, like, she came in and was partnered with Dakota Kai. She went on and won the NXT Women's Championship. Another one of those cases where people are coming in after Dakota Kai and winning championships that she is more than talented enough to hold. And then, Raquel gets sent to the main roster and they're just not doing anything with Dakota Kai, and then they release her. Malcolm Bivens, who is another one, he was the manager of the stable Diamond Mine. It was Roderick Strong. There's a girl in there, and I can't think of her name right now. The tag team called the Creed Brothers. He was their manager, top level manager. I've been a fan of his since he was Stokely Hathaway in Ring of Honor. He was a manager there. He managed Moose in Ring of Honor.
Moose.
And he's great. And if you don't follow him on Twitter, you should.
Is he one of those?
Oh yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Is he like Iron Sheik, or is he?
He's more like Nyla Rose. He's like that.
Okay.
That level. But
so Malcolm Bivens. All right.
Yeah. But he is fantastic on Twitter. He was another one that, he's great in the manager role. And he was another one who decided not to renew his contract. He had informed them because they tried to get him to sign a contract in February, a long-term deal, and he said no. He did a short extension to help them out, and then they released him on Friday, and he was another one whose contract wasn't up until next year. So it's
I can't find him. There's all sorts of spoof accounts and fake accounts.
I'll find him and send you the link to it.
All right.
But yeah, it's like, how can you? I just don't get. Just let them work out just let them finish out their contract.
Yeah.
If they're not going to re-sign, that's fine. Nobody's obligated to re-sign to WWE. If they feel like they can do better somewhere else, or they just want to do other things, just let them finish out their contract and go. Like, people give AEW crap all the time about, about Joey Janela and Marco Stunt weren't on TV, and I think Jack Evans was another one. And it's like, they were extremely important to the building blocks of AEW.
Mm-hmm.
But with any other sport, it's the same thing. Things move on.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, it's like, we don't really have anything for you, but at least AEW honored the complete contract.
Yes.
And they were able to work until they completed their contract. That way, AEW didn't release anybody. They just paid them out. They paid them to the end of their contract. WWE is just cutting people loose, and it's like, oh, well, here's your month of salary, or your 90 days of salary, depending on if you're on the main roster or NXT, and then good luck in your future endeavors.
I was looking at the calendar. I was going, okay, she was released on the 29th, and I started counting, the 30 days from that, And the 30 days from that is, of course, the 29th of May, which is the day after Revolution Rising. I'm thinking that'd be kind of cool, if she could they could get her in that, because with the NWF, it's the NWF and another organization like the.
Is it PWGA?
Yes, professional pro wrestling girls. It's like wrestling women and girls together is the actual name of the company, and I literally just saw where they had posted one of the banners. Let me see. Looking on that, and sorry folks for being boring. But I just went and mowed my grass earlier, and nope. Oh, PGWA, Professional Girls Wrestling.
PGWA, okay.
Yeah. And I think it's Professional Girls. What did I just hit on here? Make this thing come up. So let me find out what that is. But like you're saying, release them, and the whole quarterly thing though. And we know, I mean, we know because we know why they're doing it quarterly. It's going according with how their stock is doing. However, their stock is, they're like, well, we're making profits every time. Yeah, you're making profits because you're cutting payroll.
Yeah.
That's not a good business model, dude.
Yeah, it's like we're making record profits. Yeah, because you're cutting your workforce.
Yeah. And do y'all remember what happened at WrestleMania or the Rumble? You cut so many people, you had nobody left. Don't do that.
Well, the 10 people that got released from NXT, Dexter Lumis, whose real name is Samuel Shaw. I watched him in TNA. He was there he was in TNA for several years. His storyline, Dexter Lumis was married to Indy Hartwell.
Okay.
Now Indy Hartwell's still there. Dexter Lumis has been released, so they're just never going to mention that again. And
No.
We're supposed to be like, where'd her husband go? Where'd her storyline husband go? But he was also one. He was in a feud. It was her, and it was Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis were in a feud with Persia Perota. I think I said that name right. She was matched up with Duke. Can't think of his last name, but they were in an ongoing feud. These two couples were, and now were. And now you get released, and they're probably just not going to acknowledge any of it and just pretend that. And the thing is, it's like everything's on the network. So if you go back and watch week to week, and then all of a sudden it's like, what happened to this storyline? Where'd it go? Like, because it's like there's no resolution to this because you released two of the people. Persia being released sucks because she moved here. I'm trying to remember where she is from.
Perota? That sounds Italian, maybe, or some kind of Latin origin.
She's Australian. Well,
I was way off.
Well, her real name is Stephanie Delandry. That was hers. Persia is her storyline name.
All right, WWE, y'all suck for doing that to me.
Yeah, but she's from Australia, moved to the United States, had just bought a house the week before she got released. She moved to the United States, bought a house in Florida so she'd be near the Performance Center and all that stuff. And a week later she gets released. That's the kind of crap I'm talking about. It's like you expect these people to uproot their lives, and then when they do, you're at a whim, you're just like, oh, we don't need you anymore. Sorry. I know you just bought a house and all this, but
and she's got work visa issues, possibly. Wow, Vince, or who's the obviously it's not Tony Khan. Who's the Khan in charge of
Nick Khan?
Nick Khan.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick. You cannot always think of things through the lens of a businessman, because these are human beings you're dealing with.
Yep.
And yeah, I do get. I mean, sometimes you do have to make the tough decisions. These decisions don't seem like they're that tough for you.
No, it just seems like these are names on a spreadsheet, and it's like we can free up that amount and free up that amount and free up that amount, and it's like cut these people because that's the amount of money we need to free up right now.
And I mean, they're just going to people and just releasing them, because I can tell you right now, the company that, where I work, my shoot job, I look at numbers like this all the time. And even though we know our ideal number of people, like during certain times of the year, are going to be higher or lower, if we just happen to be over, we're over.
Right.
I mean, and we try to get it because we know through natural attrition. I mean, people do move on to other jobs, or they move departments, things like that.
Yep.
But it doesn't always happen the way that we would like it to.
Right.
And sometimes they do actually talk to people who are like, okay, there are too many in this department, but not enough in this department, and they're very related. Can you move? And with the WWE, it doesn't seem like they're doing that. They're just walking. Hey, you with the you just had the housewarming party.
Yeah. You're out.
Yeah, you're out. HR, HR wants to talk to you.
Yeah.
And that's just horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, and you want to make people not like your company?
Yeah.
Treat them like to do it.
Yeah, they did the same thing to he goes by Jonah now. He was in NXT. His NXT name was Bronson Reed. He's from Australia also.
I remember that name, yeah.
Big guy, like yeah, kind of like shorter, but that Vader type build.
Yeah, the name Bronson actually just screams big.
Yeah. Well, he had just bought a house. He had moved his entire family from Australia to the United States so he could be here full time and and wrestle. He was even the NXT North American champion. He had just recently bought a house, and then a few weeks later he got released. Like, no reason for his release, because he was over with the fans. He was good in the ring. I mean, he's an awesome big man. Like I said, he's in that Vader mode, where just a destructive force. And it's like he's back. He's at Impact Wrestling right now, but he's still, with Impact, you still get to wrestle other places, and he's tearing it up right now. But that was another case of, it's like, oh well, we need to free up your salary. So sorry, you just uprooted your entire family and bought a house, but we got to make those quarterly projections. So
do they have an undeclared salary cap or something?
I have no idea, but it looks more and more like it every time you see the releases. Another release was Harland. His real name is Parker Boudreau. People were when he first came in, people were comparing him to a young Brock Lesnar, and I thought that they were just going to have him go in, as himself, and let's see what this kid can do. No, they bring him in, they shave his head bald, they have him stand in the audience just like he's some B-movie horror movie villain, and just stand there. And he hardly talked. He was just supposed to be this big menacing monster. But then they turn around and say that, well, he's not developing. They said that he had not progressed enough in the ring for their taste. Well, you kind of have to put him in the ring more often than have him. I mean, they just basically they had him in squash matches, and then they had him aligned with Joe Gacy, so he was pretty much Joe Gacy's heavy to do all the beat downs and everything. And then in the middle of this storyline that Joe Gacy's got with Braun Breaker over the NXT title, they just stopped having Harland on the show. And then now he's been released. But I think he's fine with it, because he put on his Twitter that Parker Boudreau was back. And so I think he'll be okay because he's got some talent. He's young. He's got time to develop. But it's like you can't say that somebody's not developing enough when you're not giving them the opportunity to develop.
Exactly. And also makes me kind of wonder. They're saying they're not developing enough and they're not putting them in the ring enough. But Aziz has wrestled how many times on
7 times.
TV?
He's had 7 matches in 7 televised matches in, was it 5 years?
Something
6
like
years?
that.
Something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous because I remember they first showed him. It was at the Greatest Royal Rumble over in Saudi.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, the big dude, on one side of his tights, he's got the Polish flag. Those got the Nigerian flag because
Yep.
that's, he's half Nigerian, half Polish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, that's an interesting combination.
Yeah.
And he's 7 foot tall, like legit 7 foot tall,
Mm-hmm.
moves like a cat. Yeah. And when they finally brought him, to the main roster, I'm like, finally.
Mm-hmm.
And they just have not done anything with him.
Yep. Fed him to Omos pretty much.
Which is ridiculous. They should have put them two together.
Here's the thing, though. They're talking about these people in NXT not progressing. Omos is green as grass.
Yeah, he's just big.
He's just big. But
And he
it's
growls.
like, yeah, but it's like he's not any. Here's the thing. He's not any better now than he was when they first put him with AJ Styles.
Nope.
He is still, I hate to say it, but I feel like they're going to have another great Khali on their hands. They saw this giant, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's huge! So let's push him to the moon." And it's like, for every Undertaker or Kane you get, that for me, it's like there was a generation of big men that could work. You had your Bam Bam Bigelows, and you had your Vaders, and your Undertakers, and your Kanes, but then you also get your great Khalis and your Omos and guys like that. It's like, just because they're big doesn't mean they can work.
Right. Yes, I mean, Andre was an attraction because you didn't see guys that size at the time.
Right.
Omos is one of at least 3 guys right now in the WWE who are legit 7-footers.
Yep.
Him, Aziz, and Shanky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not Shanky. Yeah, actually Shanky on SmackDown. How tall is Veer?
I don't think he's 7 foot tall, is he?
He's not that big. Okay.
No,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah, Shanky. Yeah, Shanky. So, but even if Veer's not, they still have 3 legit 7-footers on there, but none of them can work.
Right, because Aziz has been wrestling enough that he should be.
He should be. His may be more of a case of they don't want him to work. They just want him to be the intimidating big man. But
right,
Omos can't work. I mean, it was smart to put MVP with him to be the mouthpiece, and he may get better, but I don't know. It's just, you don't see that era of big men that can work like you used to be able to. And that also putting in that list, not legit 7-footers, but just big men that could work. Big Boss Man, Ray Traylor could work. One Man Gang could work. Guys like that, like I said, your Bam Bam Bigelow, Vader, Undertaker, Kane, guys like that, but now it's like they're falling back into that trap of like 2009, 2010, where it's like, we just got this big body and everybody's supposed to work around their deficiencies. But we're going to feed the entire roster to them, but to make them look good, but they're just not going to get any better.
And if Taker was still wrestling, he would have probably already said, Omos is too green, not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
He needs training. Aziz, get him in here. He's got more experience, so you need to actually develop that more. Shanky, and they're burying Shanky, which is a shame.
Yes.
You know,
I love Ricochet, but there's no reason that Ricochet should have beat Shanky.
all right, and I'm glad to see Ricochet finally getting a push.
Yeah, I'm glad he's getting a push, but it's like I don't. It's just doesn't make sense to me. It's like you got this monster over here that you're wanting to push as a monster, but then you have him get beat by a guy that all the time
on TV
all the time,
and that hurts their stock. And for anybody who says wins and losses don't matter, they do to a certain extent, to where people are going to pay to see your character win.
Yeah, people don't call people only pay to see somebody lose if it's a bad guy that's been winning and needs to get their comeuppance.
Right.
That's when people pay to see somebody lose. They pay to see the bad guy finally get theirs and get their butt kicked and the hero prevail.
And I think Shanky, him being with Jinder Mahal, of course, automatically they're bad guys. Because Jinder Mahal, I mean, he is actually a great heel in my opinion.
I always thought he was a great heel. I think he was given, people give him a bad rap. The problem was he was given garbage to work with during his championship run. You know, personally, I liked when he won the title. I liked when he beat Randy Orton for the title. It was somebody new. It was something you weren't expecting. He carried himself like a champion. He looked like a champion.
Dude was cut. Man.
Yeah, dude was cut. I mean, whenever he came out, he was always dressed nice and everything. He always looked the part. But they gave him garbage, and especially in that feud with him and Shinsuke, they gave him. I don't know how they got away with what they were saying on TV, because they gave him some disgusting things to say.
Yeah.
About Shinsuke Nakamura's heritage, and it's like it's like this is not 1984. Just because they are of a different descent does not automatically make them the evil foreign heel.
And they should, yeah.
and that's what they do. I mean, that's what they used to do in the 80s. Anybody that was not from the United States was an evil foreign heel. And Vince never lost that, that mentality. He's always done that.
Aha, finally found it. I'm not going to play it. I will send it to you, because you just reminded me. I was talking about a promo that Greg Valentine did a long time ago. I just found it. I will send it to you.
Okay.
It's actually titled Greg the Racist Valentine. But anyway, Veer is 6'4", by the way.
Oh, okay. He just, I guess the hair and everything, he looks
maybe,
or the way they shoot, probably the way the camera shoots him and stuff too. So, but
yeah, he's kind of like Fletch. He's actually 6 foot, 6'4" with the afro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those of you who don't know that movie, go check it out.
Yeah. Let's see who else they released. Draco Anthony, who was an NXT talent. All these are NXT talents. He was on TV a few weeks ago. Raylan Devine, Vish Kenya, they were new prospects. Mila Milani, new prospect. Blair Baldwin, she was a referee. All these people got released on Friday. And all of them will have a 30-day non-compete clause. And then they're able to compete. They're able to work somewhere else. But it's like,
that's ridiculous. I mean, it is.
I mean, your rosters, your main roster, your Raw and SmackDown, your rosters are threadbare as it is.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna gut your developmental, and this is where you're supposed to be developing the next generation of talents to fill the main roster when the time comes, and you're just cutting people loose. And especially if they go through with that, doing it every quarter, then what's the point? It's like, what's the point of having a developmental if you're not going to give them time to develop. That
I
is the
can,
whole point of developmental.
no, I could not imagine that the company I work for, if they said, okay, every quarter we're just going to release people.
Yeah.
But you have to have people to replace them because, you know, at least in our case, I mean, and it's not a wrestling company, obviously, but the work is still there. With wrestling, the work is also still there because they have obligations. They have Raw, they have Smackdown, they have the NXT show. They also have their premium live events, and they have the tours over in Europe, which I think they're just coming back from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they have all this work that has to be done, and not only that, but I mean they also have appearances they have to make, you know, for autograph sessions, and sometimes I mean they do end up going to like some of the Comic Cons and the Fan Fest and things like that. You know, now that one is kind of a weird, touchy subject when it comes to that with Vince McMahon. Some of them can go to the Fan Fest, but not all of them can.
Yeah.
But if you don't have anybody on your roster, I mean, look at the Rumble. Look at the people who were in the Rumbles, the men's and women's, that really shouldn't have been.
You're right.
You know, Shane, for one.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're like, well, who else could have put? Well, then, you know, it's slim pickings right now. And then came time to WrestleMania. Of course, in between the Rumble and WrestleMania, they released more people.
Yeah.
And
then you get these throwaway matches at WrestleMania, which is supposed to be the Super Bowl of professional wrestling, is what they like to promote it as.
And it used to be.
And it's the absolute biggest show of the year. And then you put a bunch of throwaway matches on it, like this is like WrestleMania 10. And it's like you said with the Rumble, you can't gut your roster and then, oh, well, who we're going to put in the Rumble? Maybe all the people that you fired. They could have had spots in the Rumble, like the women's Rumble. Quit bringing back all of these, quit bringing back all these legends and let some of your new talent get some time to shine. Quit trying to piggyback off of people's name recognition, and you've got to build to the future. Even John Cena has criticized them for not building toward the future. And he's like, you can't do business that way. John Cena's bulletproof now, so they can't really, what are they going to tell him? You can't say stuff like that. And they're like, I don't even work here anyway. So
there are a few people who can get away with doing kind of whatever. Cena, The Rock.
Yeah.
I don't even know Stone Cold. I mean, he might be able to, because I think he said some stuff, but
it's like when John Cena is saying that you're not building to the future, you have an issue, because he was the man for like 10 years.
Yeah.
He was the face of that company for 10 years. And if he's telling you that you're having a problem building stars, stop and listen.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. It's like, you want all these casual fans in, and you want to have all this mainstream coverage and all this, be at the top of pop culture like they were, in the late 90s and early 2000s. And it's like, but you can't do that when you're not giving people time to develop into the stars that you want them to be.
And you're talking about it being in pop culture. I was even talking to someone yesterday at church, and we were talking about the podcast, and I actually mentioned, oddly enough, I was actually wearing this shirt yesterday as well up underneath my, because I always wear just kind of a pullover polo shirt.
Yeah.
When I go to church. But I mentioned us and how I came to listen to this, and well, these guys, they were actually on Jericho's podcast. I said, yeah. I said, Chris Jericho. She's like, oh, I remember Chris Jericho. And, so she knew him as a wrestler, but I also mentioned, by the way, he's also a rock star. By the way, he's also a podcaster. By the way, he was also in Dance with the Stars. By the way, he's done a lot of stuff, but I mean, he's one of the ones that has kind of stayed with pop culture. People go, oh, I know Jericho, but right now, I don't, you know, I don't think there's really a logical explanation for any of the things they're doing because I cannot imagine running a company where, by the way, we're just going to churn people out every 90 days, and and it almost sounds because it is the quarterly thing. They
Mm-hmm.
know, okay, the whatever quarter this is, the second quarter just started not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to run it, run it, run it. All of a sudden, boom, mass exodus, mass incoming.
Yeah.
And that is not a way to run any kind of business,
No.
much less an entertainment company.
And the thing is, it's like, what does this do for the morale in NXT when you know when you hear that? Oh well, it's already to the point where people have got to be like, well, nobody's job is safe. Anybody can get released at any time for
Yep.
no reason at all. And then you've got this edict that's coming out talking about, well, we're probably going to start doing releases every quarter. It's like, why am I going to put in all this work and why am I going to move my family here and do all these things to, be loyal to this company that has no loyalty to me?
Right. And that's one of the things to run any kind of company. Always take care of your employees.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way when I was still in the military, some of the best supervisors, best senior NCOs, commanders I had were the ones who said, I'm going to take care of the airmen. You do that, the mission will take care of itself.
Exactly. If you
You have,
yeah, like you said, in any job, if you have good management, then the people are going to work harder for you if you have good management.
yeah.
It's
And
just
if they think the fans are going to stick around as the product, I mean, the product will start suffering. It will start
mhm.
getting mediocre. What happened in 95? And yes, I know
Oh,
this is going, 27 years ago,
but still,
but
yeah.
still, I mean, it could happen again.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
it happened in '95. It happened in once the ruthless aggression era kind of ended. Between the end of the ruthless aggression era and the beginning, when CM Punk did the pipe bomb,
Right.
all that in between was very mediocre. It was extremely hard to watch.
Yeah.
There was not too many bright spots in, as far as WWE programming is concerned. And I feel like they've gotten back to that point where there's not a lot of bright spots. Pretty much for me, if it's not Roman and the Usos, I don't really care because that's
Right.
really the only interesting thing they've got going right now is the bloodline.
Yeah. And I like AJ Styles. I like
Yeah,
I like RK Bro.
yeah,
Um, and so who are some of the other ones? I haven't. This is pretty sad when I haven't even really been watching as much lately. I've been catching like the replays.
yeah.
You know,
I just watched the replay clips they post on their YouTube channel. That's enough for me to keep up with what's going on, unless there's something like when they had the women's gauntlet match a couple months ago. I
right?
did watch it in its entirety because it was really good. But it's stuff like that. Like the match with Charlotte and Naomi was an excellent match, but they do that so infrequently that nobody wants to watch on a consistent basis. I watched Rampage this morning from Friday, and it was a good show all the way through. I mean, Rampage is not always, great, but it's always good. I've never seen a bad episode of Rampage. There's always good stuff on there. I just feel like AEW is just putting out a consistently better product.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like WWE is just resting on their laurels as being the biggest company in the world, and right now, the one of the longest standing companies, with the most history. So they're looking at it like, because I mean, you've got, I don't know if I don't know if this NWA falls in the same lineage.
It never ceased to exist. It's always been around. It was kind of like the Aral Sea, I think is the name of it, over in the former Soviet Union. This sea that used to be just massive,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's like just a little small lake.
Okay.
That's what so it never completely disappeared.
So
Now I
like
have to look up that.
right. So like technically the NWA is still the longest standing
Yes.
professional wrestling organization. But as far as what WWE would view as their competition, they are the longest standing pro wrestling company because they don't view New Japan as competition. New Japan doesn't view anybody as competition because
They're so separate. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
and
they're so
that's one thing
separate.
being so isolated in Japan.
Yeah,
I mean,
right. But it's like just because you're this huge corporate machine does not mean that you're infallible, that you don't make mistakes, that you can't improve. But, powers that be in WWE feel like we're still the number one game in town, and they're absolutely not. I mean, Roderick Strong wants out of his contract. Roderick Strong is still, he's the last remaining member of the Undisputed Era
right.
that is still in NXT, and he's requested his release at least 3 times in the last several months, but has been denied every time because they say he fits into their plans going forward. And it's like, no, he doesn't. You just don't want to let him go because you know where he's going.
Yeah.
Because
And
3 out of the 4 members of the Undisputed Era are on television every Wednesday. You know where he's going if you release him. So they're just not going to.
They're do they think they're too big to fail? Because
Absolutely. They think they're too big to fail. And every time a company thinks that they're too big to fail, they always do.
Back in 1997, 98, WCW Nitro was the number 1 rated show on all cable television. Not number 1 wrestling show, number 1 rated show.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 years later, they were bought by Vince McMahon for like $6 million. Something like that. I don't remember the exact cost, but
for like basically pennies on the dollar of what that company used to be worth. I mean, they lost $80 million in a year.
Yeah. So, they thought they were too big to fail. And to show you how big of an influence that they had at the time, I heard, I think it was on Bischoff's podcast, one of the other podcasts, but it mentioned that you still see NWO shirts in the crowd.
Oh yeah,
all the time.
Oh yeah, I've got a Wolfpack shirt in my closet.
Right. And they're still selling them.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kevin Nash and now I think probably Scott Hall's estate, his family are still making money off of those shirts. Yep. Hogan's not. Hogan wasn't part of the deal, and he found out about it later on. He's like, "Well, dang it, brother."
Because Hall and Nash were excellent businessmen, and they knew better than to let Hogan in on that deal because Hogan would have figured out a way to cut them out of it. So,
one of the things I heard, I do not remember who it was, but they were saying that when this is in WCW during the time of the NWO, that they saw one of their action figures like in a Walmart or something like that, somewhere, and they said that somebody went with and they rung it up and it came up as Hulk Hogan.
Oh,
so yeah, so that may have been how Hogan looked like he had, so many sales when he actually did not.
Yeah,
and of course, all the things we are learning about Hogan, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but all the things we're learning about Hogan, he was. Seems like he just was not a good person. I don't want to throw judgment, but it seems like a lot of the actions that we're hearing about were not good, and that goes beyond the video. The video was bad enough. I mean, that right there.
I mean, just his behavior in wrestling alone, just undercutting guys, and I mean, to me, bringing in his non-talented friends to take spots from people that deserve those spots. especially when he was like him and Bischoff were in charge of TNA. I mean, they brought in the Nasty Boys, and it was like
They were way beyond their peak by that point.
Nasty Boys weren't good when they were in their prime. I mean, they were just. I was never a fan of the Nasty Boys.
I would have never put the titles on them. They were that they were always going to be kind of like that heel team. If you'd have made them a face team, they'd have been like the fun face team.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have put the titles on them though.
No, and then WCW put their tag titles on them. WWE put their tag titles on them, and it's like these guys are not. These are not tag team championship material. These are the guys. These are the guys that get beat in line to getting to the tag team champions, not making them the tag team champions. They're the stepping stone to the tag team champions.
Yes, these are the Mod Squad.
Mm-hmm.
Who are some of the other teams? These are the Thunderfoots.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll find out some more names.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it. They were the Bushwhackers. I mean, Bushwhackers. That's what the Bushwhackers were.
Not the sheep herders.
I say the Bushwhackers, not the sheep herders, because
sheep herders, they were awesome.
Sheep herders were deadly. I mean,
yes. Sheep herders had titles, and you were gonna have to fight to get them away.
Yeah, you were gonna have to kill them to take the titles.
Yeah, the Bushwhackers just went around licking kids' faces.
Yeah, and
but you know what? And and they're laughing and like all the dollars
oh yeah,
they got paid. They're like, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm not getting cut up in bar matches this way.
Yeah, but that was another thing though. They'd already cemented their legacy before they came to WWE. So they were there. They made their money, made a bunch of kids happy. So,
and they didn't have the quarterly personnel turnover.
Yep, props to them. But it's like you've got people wanting to leave your company. You're releasing people at a 90-day clip. It's like, but then you still want to go on record and say your company, your wrestlers still want to say that AEW is not competition, but yet you're not. But you don't want to release certain people because that's where they're going. Mm-hmm. They didn't release Mustafa Ali. They knew where he was going,
and they brought him back. I saw that.
And they brought him back last week. I feel like he's going to be in a U.S. title program with Theory.
Okay. I wouldn't mind seeing that, honestly.
I think it'd be good.
Yeah.
Theory's got potential. I don't have a problem with them putting a U.S. title on him and pushing him. Because again, you have to build new stars. Mm-hmm. I feel like this is an example of them for now making the attempt. It's just, I fear that if he doesn't get over the way they think he should get over, that they'll just get tired of it in a few months and move on to something else. Because I mean, they like putting him with Vince McMahon is not a good plan for his long-term career.
Yeah,
because he did that with Drew McIntyre, and he ended up in 3-man band.
Yep,
and then ended up getting released.
Jinder Mahal, and who was
Heath Slater.
Heath Slater, okay.
Yep. Heath Slater's an Impact now. He's teaming with Rhino.
I forgot about Rhino being an Impact as well.
Yep.
Oh.
And the Briscoes are there too.
So what happens, and they need to look at this, and obviously you don't know the answer because I don't know the answer. What happens in 3 months when they turn these people out? Okay, that sounded bad. When they have their turnover and they release some people and they don't have the backfill.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like
eventually the people are going to go, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Oh, and did you see what happened with the Oakland A's recently?
Mm-hmm.
They had 2,000 people show up for a game in a stadium that holds 30, 40,000.
Yeah.
They had 2,000 people show up.
Well, remember WCW had a Madison Square Garden show a few months back. And this was after
you talk about WWE.
WWE, yes. Yeah. And they had that Madison Square Garden show, and 2/3 of the arena was tarped off.
Yep.
Because they didn't, and that used to be a guaranteed sellout.
Yeah.
For WWE. I mean, throughout history, if they didn't sell out anything else, as soon as tickets went on sale for the Garden, people bought them before they knew what the card was.
Yeah.
Because it was WWE at Madison Square Garden. But now, I mean, their reputation is preceding them, and people are realizing there's other places, there's other wrestling to watch. We don't have to settle for what they're giving us.
Right. And people aren't, they're not. They're starting to go,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Why am I going to pay $25, $50 more than that a ticket?
Yeah.
You know, to go watch garbage. Why am I going to go pay a ticket to watch the exact same thing I'm going to see on TV, which is already garbage?
And I'm hoping that they're going to make SummerSlam a big deal, because I did get tickets to SummerSlam, so I will be there this year. It'll be my first ever pay-per-view. I know I sound kind of contradictory because I'm, you know, heavily critiquing WWE. I don't dislike WWE. I grew up on the NWA and WWE. I've watched WWE since the early 80s. I'm just not a fan of how they're doing their product. Their product is just, as far as their weekly television product, they're just coasting.
Yeah, they're stagnant right now.
Yeah, there's hardly anything interesting. Pay-per-views are a little better sometimes. I think if they cut out some of these B shows and concentrated more on the bigger shows, that the pay-per-views would be better. I'm hoping SummerSlam is going to be a good show. I think the experience is going to be great. But I don't know, you know, as far as the matches goes, hopefully they have some good stuff.
I want pictures.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm taking all kinds of.
Speaking of pictures, do you have that picture?
I do. I gotta fix. What did I do with it? Hold on just a second.
All right, I'll be right back. I'll entertain the people. So anyway, while Joanne was looking for the picture, what we're trying to say is WWE needs to improve their business model, because it looks like it's kind of set up for failure right now. Okay, I was telling all the bad things people said about you.
Oh yeah. all the time.
All the time.
I want to say thank you to Buff Bagwell. Got my autographed picture from Buff. Gotta get that got to get it framed so I can hang it on my wall.
Yeah, I don't blame you for putting it back in that envelope too.
Yeah,
just kind of keep it from.
I'm keeping it in here until I get a frame for it. Appreciate you sending me that, Steve.
Oh yeah, you know, sorry it took me so long, because that was got it right as all the long ridiculous hours kicked off at work. I mean, I wasn't because I was like, I got to go mail this, you know, so I just took it with me to work, and there's actually a FedEx place right there by my office.
Oh, okay.
And I did it after work one day when I sent it. So, and the girl, she was not a wrestling fan. Like, how do you live? I mean, your life is just so empty.
I know. It's like, how are you not a wrestling fan?
You know, I mean, but speaking of pay-per-views, WWE WrestleMania Backlash.
It's just Backlash. I can't do that.
I can't do the WrestleMania. Backlash is this Saturday or this Sunday. To show you how uninterested we are, we're not even going to do a preview.
No, because let me look up the card real quick, because I believe most of this card is just rematches from WrestleMania.
Which they already did the rematch from WrestleMania. They normally do on the Raw right after WrestleMania, and I know they've done some of them, but why have a rematch for a rematch?
Yeah,
you know, take your angles, take your programs with somebody, and have them stretch out over a couple of months, you know, a few months, instead of this, you know, month to month to month to month to month.
We got Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins, WrestleMania rematch.
Yep.
Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair for the Smackdown Women's Championship.
Yep.
WrestleMania rematch. The only wrinkle is it's not a quit match.
Which should have been that. Well, okay. Okay, now I do get it. Not having the I Quit match first, getting up to it. So that part actually they did.
Yeah,
they did okay. I mean,
but my thing is they should have just gave the belt to Ronda at WrestleMania, and so Charlotte could go away.
Yeah, that could be it too.
That's just me.
I mean,
you got Bobby Lashley versus Omos. Just had that at WrestleMania. You've got AJ Styles versus Edge. just had that at WrestleMania. Happy Corbin versus Madcap Moss. Nobody cares. And they were originally going to have the unification of the tag titles, RK Bro versus the Usos. And then with no explanation, they changed it. And now it's going to be a 6-man tag. It's going to be the main event. It's going to be the Bloodline versus RK Bro and Drew McIntyre.
So we're not going to have a world title match at the pay-per-view.
No world title match at the pay-per-view. We
Well,
just unified 2 world titles, but now we get no world title match at the pay-per-view.
No Intercontinental title. Who's the Intercontinental champion now? I don't even know anymore.
Ricochet.
Oh, that's right, Dud. It's Ricochet. That's right, because I was talking about him getting a good push.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, the man sells better than anybody else.
Oh yeah,
because when he lands, he's like, oh, he's like he's dead. I'm like, oh, because someone could poke him. Is he all right? So, no U.S. title match.
Yep.
No. Well, there is one women's title match.
Yeah. No, as of right now, no Raw women's title match, because that was originally going to be at Backlash between Bianca Belair and Sonya Deville. They ended up having that match this past week on Raw. So I don't know what they're going to do there. The women's tag team titles are going to be defended on SmackDown. I think this week. If not this week, I think it's this coming Friday that they're going to do that. And it's like, why are your titles not being defended on your pay-per-views?
And you have too many titles to begin with. So you
Mhm.
need to, well, the women's tag team titles, they keep these roster cuts because if you notice, I mean, the women's roster, they can't really afford too many cuts because it's bigger than what it used to be, but it's still, it's hard to maintain a tag team, women's tag team championship.
What they should have done was just kept them like they were originally when it started. When Bayley and Sasha won them, they were defended across all 3 brands, including NXT.
Okay.
Then they decided, oh, we're going to create NXT women's tag team champions. You know, so that way it's separate from that way we've got our developmental tag team champions, I guess. But then we keep cutting the women's roster in NXT. So
well,
I think there should be 1 world champion, 1 set of tag champions, 1 women's champion, and keep the women's tag team champion and have the women's tag team champion
back and forth across all brands.
All brands.
Yeah. That's a true champion.
Yeah, you can keep your secondary titles. You can keep the Intercontinental and the United States title.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But all these extra titles, there's way too many for the way that they're just running through their roster, releasing people. Just makes no sense.
Next thing I know, Vince McMahon is wrestling again, and Stone Cold's wrestling again, and they bring back Johnny Knoxville, and they bring back. I wouldn't mind seeing Bad Bunny again because he was actually pretty good.
Well, yeah, he put in the work, and he respected. He respects wrestling. So
I was impressed by Logan Paul. I mean, I hate to admit that, but I mean, he actually did a lot better than what he should have been.
Yeah, that's like acid coming out of my mouth, but yeah, I do.
But
but I have to be real. So yeah,
he didn't. I mean, he worked. I mean, you could tell he didn't want to go out there and phone it in. I mean, he actually wanted. But I think because he knew everybody was like, "Why are you in a match?" Okay, so he did a good match. I still thought. Well, that match, no, the Johnny Knoxville match was definitely a waste of time, especially how they had everybody interfere and they just buried Sami Zayn. Mm-hmm. Even though Sami Zayn said he actually had one of the best matches of his career.
He said he had a ball and good for him, but for me there was no entertainment in that match.
Especially with all the people on the roster. By the way, you have all these people who it wasn't a lot of people who weren't on the WrestleMania card, and now you're still cutting people. But anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, so I was telling you before we started recording, this Thursday I won't be able to record.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And because it's my daughter's birthday, and she informed me yesterday, Dad, we're going to go watch Doctor Strange. I knew we were going to go watch Doctor Strange. I didn't think about her birthday being on a Thursday. But it's her. She's gonna be 20, so she'll no longer be a teenager, which
Yep.
makes me feel weird. I'm gonna have an adult for a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and also Thursday marks the 20th anniversary of the WWE.
It does. Yep.
Yep. Uh, didn't know that she was born on that day until like actually a couple years ago when I was like, hey, so she's never known a world with the WWF.
No, that's sad.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm pretty sure they say it happened that morning. It was on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Happened, they made that change like that morning, probably at midnight, and then she was
Probably.
born, later on in the evening,
Yep.
and she was almost 6 weeks early. So, oh, but yeah, so I'm gonna go watch Doctor Strange, and she knows I'm going to be asking her questions during the movie. So I'm pretty sure she's going to tell me to shut up at least once.
Well, like we always say, family comes first. So,
Yep.
celebrate your daughter's birthday, enjoy the movie. Let me know how it is because I really want to see this one.
Yeah, I'll watch it like I'm so confused. but, uh, but Wednesday, in which the episode I'll try to drop it Wednesday night, maybe Thursday morning. It's not an episode of this podcast. It's an episode of the new podcast I just started called the Cubicle Chat podcast. And Dwaylen is going to be my guest on that.
Yep.
And we are going to be discussing overrated and underrated. It'll probably be mostly overrated bands who we think are overrated and why. So I got a list. And you know what shirt I'm going to be wearing?
Yeah,
so
I know.
yeah. So but yeah, definitely tune into that one. That one I don't want to say it's a work in progress, but I mean it is just starting out, and so I'm trying to definitely get it going. But I mean I think it's heading on kind of the right path now, because I got you scheduled me on there. I got our friend Alan. I talked to him about being coming on there. I talked to some other people about coming on there, and I think I'm just trying to build it up. I mean, like I said, between this show here, our show here, that show, and you're big and fat on YouTube, we're just going to have the social media empire.
Oh yeah, we're trying.
Yeah. So, but until we can meet again on Wednesday, not going to meet on Thursday, and this is a busy week for us. So, and for all those who have not started subscribing to the Cubicle Chat, since we're not going to talk to next Monday, call your mom Sunday. Sunday's Mother's Day. Call your mom. So, but until then, God bless.
God bless.